Well, thank you very much, Adia, and thank you, colleagues, for joining this important discussion. And it is important with capital letters, okay? Because what we are discussing today has a life or death impact in people. It has a very heavy economic consequences and very heavy social consequences. It's actually very much shaping our lives, and is one of these hidden crises that we don't talk about. We haven't been talking about sufficiently. One of these emergencies that we haven't been talking about sufficiently. But that has now gotten a different kind of attention also within the very special moment that we are going through because of the global pandemic of COVID. That doesn't seem to end. Look, if we look at the world since 1998 to 2018, the impact of hazards, stresses, and shocks coming from some kind of climate or geophysical changes in our planet have had 4.45 billion people affected. 1.3 billion of these people have died. 3 billion US dollars have been impacted by these effects, and 75% of those $3 billion are related directly with climate issues. So imagine how important it is to first look at climate change as an emergency. Adaptation and mitigation then should be much higher on the agenda. And imagine how important it would be to have more people involved in defining how we are going to invest in both preventing and addressing these issues. I mentioned the pandemic because it is a foundational moment that it is obliging us to go through, right? It is pushing us to rethink every single relationship we have. I mean, at the level of persons is asking us to rethink about our own relationships with families because of our mobility freedoms being so predetermined by governments like they have never been before. It's asking us to question our relationship with nature. We see that the way that we have been relating to nature might have a very direct relationship with the kind of pandemic that we are facing. And it's also predetermining the way that we are able to address the pandemic. It's also asking us to rethink and reshape the way that we relate to each other as a society with these new rules, social distancing, density, morphology of cities, planning of cities, the relationship between cities and rural areas, what we like to call the symbiotic relationship between the rural-urban realities. And is also asking us to rethink our relationship with government. Government has a very different role in our life. And many of us, and I know Professor Yves Caban is one of those thinkers that have been thinking for a very long time about the relationship between governments and the people and between different spheres of government. But I think this pandemic has put this in a different perspective. We now have explicit experience, very specific cases that we can now identify and with very specific diagnosis about how these relationships we have with government, with planet, and among people will need to be transformed in order to ensure sustainability. I think it is very important also to realize that public is back. governments are saying and defining much more in our life than we have ever been before, for good and for bad. And I think the proposals that the observatory and this work that has been developed with Professor Yves Caban is bringing us a positive perspective. We need to make sure that public is understood as protecting commons, and that commons need to be redefined. The essentials need to be redefined. This is why in UCLG, we have embraced this notion that we need a new social contract, that new social contract can be very well articulated around the global goals that are contained in Agenda 2030, but that we need to go and step further. And it's what we defined as the Pact for the Future. A pact for the future that needs to be driven by communities, by the aspirations, expectations, and the dreams of those communities, that should be built around the day-to-day neighborhood needs, and that is very much linked with the global realities, because at the end of the day, we are all global citizens in one way or the other. And participatory budgeting, but also direct democracy and also community-driven solutions will be very critical for this pact for the future, for all the axes of this pact, for the people, for the planet, and for government. And this is why we are very, very excited to continue this work. It's not new work, but is getting a different kind of acceleration and a different kind of importance. It is very linked to the resilience work that we are doing, to the preparedness work that we are doing, but it has further implications around accountability. I will finish by saying, because what I'm most interested in is listening to you, is that we feel that this type of direct exercise, participatory budgeting, but also co-creation, are critical to leave no one behind, but also no place behind. So the territorial cohesion is very critical to us. The integration with nature is also extremely critical, and this is also what we are saying in our training materials around resilience. It goes further than not misusing nature. It's redefining our sense of being and making sure that we do not relate to the planet as a resource. So this will be very critical for our ecological transformation policy that we are developing. Then the partnership-based approach, extremely critical. The multi-level governance and direct accountability, where I think the exercise that you are presenting here today and the experiences that we are going to be looking at will be very important. We want to go to a new type of municipalism, which is feminists and put care at the center, driven around proximity, empathy, and it is undeniable we will need to change many things and it will not be easy. So what you are learning here, what you are experimenting, and the big work that has already been done is an important legacy for us to construct that pact for the future. That's why I am here with you today, and that's why I am delighted to listen to your contribution. So thank you very much, Adrià, and thank you, Professor Caban, for continue trusting the system of cities and the networks of cities. Thank you very much.
Very good.